Good afternoon, y'all. Um, David Atkins, here with another video. Today I'm going to be, I thought about these new TIs and even refresher courses for old TIs. I'm going to be reading How to Tame a Demon with commentary. I'm going to start out with a devotion, then I'm going to start reading How to Tame a Demon, just like I am Project Soul Catcher. I'm not done with Project Soul Catcher yet. I'll be doing that too, along with interviews. If you're interested in doing an interview, please email me at hollyspunk@gmail.com. That's hollyspunk@gmail.com. Um, just tell when you email me, just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're dealing with, and that you would like to tell your story. And I'll be glad to get it out there for you. Um, you know, uh, I do ask though, if you do tell your story, there's limit your cussing and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm gonna get to this. Everybody knows all that already. Been having a hard time, you know, uh, finding people. I'm starting to wonder, is my email hacked, or is, I'm not just, or is people watching my show not targeted, or, uh, you know, I know some of y'all are. I know, the ones that comment regularly and stuff like that. And I just wonder why nobody wants to tell their story. I messaged five people that were supposed to be, and I'm not saying they're not, but these people have been my friends since 2018, supposed TIs, and I messaged them about an interview, and one of them has a YouTube channel. I'm not gonna put him on blast. He said interview. Why would I want to do an interview? And he said, tell my story. And he acted amazed, and then there's like eight others that didn't even answer. They saw it, but they didn't answer. And so it's like, you're supposed to be my friend. You could at least said, no, I'm not interested, but thanks anyway. And I'm not mad because interviews ain't gonna make or break my show. I just like showing people, when I was first targeted, I was telling my dad and my family and everything, and nobody would believe me. Um, and So it would have been good to have all these interviews and say, we at least have an open mind and watch these interviews. How is all these people saying the same things going on with them? Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. Okay, I'm gonna read a devotion, then I'm gonna start How to Tame a Demon with commentary. I have sometimes been wildly, despairingly, acutely miserable, but through it all, I still know quite certainly that just to be alive is a grand thing. By forcing us to live in mere existence, the gang stalkers work collectively to minimize us. Their daily goal is to raise their status within the group. They do this by hurting, destroying, ruining people's lives. It is our job to keep from coming empty and used up. They become more powerful if they destroy us. Since they feed off our energy, leaving us depleted, the obsessed perps will go as far as trying to take on our looks, our actions, hobbies, while they secretly and deeply lust for our soul. Their evil deeds supply their egos with a vast amount of venom that soon dissolves in their insides. Yes, they self destruct from the inside, not out. Not for 1 minute do we need to envy them. We must keep moving along because depletion can manifest itself into a very dangerous thing. Each day we should do one beneficial thing for ourselves: brush our teeth, make an appointment, go to the market, wash our hair, do laundry, change the bed linens, or walk around. One personal accomplishment each day keeps us where life is in motion. We cannot just lie around and become stagnant. We really cannot even slack off. We must stay sharp to avoid getting run over and left in the middle of the road. God, you said you would be an enemy to my enemies, an adversary to my adversaries. Exodus 23:22. And I'm going to share the screen and start this now. Just remember, don't ever let this program make you become bitter or take your love away, because it says if you have all the gifts and have love, you have nothing. The Bible talks about love, and that's the most powerful thing of it all. God is love. Okay, so here we go with it says this book is basically a compilation of the most commonly asked questions a novice asks when brought into these horrific government programs. Again, this is another book by Robert Duncan. I had a couple of people ask me to do this book. This book's not to permit to produce false hope. It hopes to alleviate suffering. It offers suggestions from hundreds of TIs to anecdotal stories. It seems that what works for one person does not necessarily work for other. And I'll be doing commentary, telling you stuff about myself, what worked for me, if I agree or disagree with what he said, because it's easy to. He's taking this off studies. What you got to remember is every target individual's targeting is different. Some of them's more severe than others. They do all this on purpose, because most of the people who have severe targeting look at people who don't have severe targeting like they're not targeted. That's not true. Okay, like I've been experiencing heavy V2K lately. I mean I've experienced it since 2015. They've really turned it up on me lately. And gang stalking, the street theater outside the house and all that stuff. Um, and I still get attacks, weapon attacks. But I'm gonna tell you, ever since I started this detoxing and keep my body detoxed, the attacks are not as severe as they were. Because I think when you seen me putting towels around my head and stuff about a year ago and during my videos, what there were them days right there. You could ask Holly. I was sitting here all day with ice packs on my head, and all that. Like I was terribly getting burnt bad, nauseated. My head was burning at all times, vibration, shocks, you name it. And I still get that when I close my eyes. I still get the shocks and vibration, but it's 10 times less than what it used to be. I mean, it was pretty severe for a while. Now the V2K is severe, and I'm still getting hit, but it's got less effects than it has usual. Maybe they just lightened it up on me for a while. I doubt it. Okay, so okay, all truth passes through three phases. First, it's ridiculed. Secondly, it's violently opposed. Third, is accepted as being self-evident. Demons. The Catholic Church used exorcism to cast out demons who were possessing people. In modern times, many labeled mentally ill can be described as demonically possessed. In today's world, there's a group within the government is using transmitted technological demon that can induce symptoms of what appear to be both demon possession and mental illness. This worldwide remotely transmitted technological demon was originally unleashed upon humankind under the guise of national security, but is now being used as an instrument of oppression, tyranny, totalitarianism, and world domination. This book hopes to help people learn how to tame that demon. The person who is targeted by this technological demon or is subjected to any form of government harassment or terrorism is known as a target individual, TI. There are a vast number of TIs in today's society. That number grows larger and larger every day as these technologies advance and the conquest for world domination proliferates. The experience of TIs have many commonalities. This short self-help book hopes to bring these different experiences together and offer some solutions to alleviate further trauma and mental scarring through understanding and some practical advice. We will take a journey from all the different perspectives of these experiences to help combine the jargon from many different fields. When one starts down this path of being victimized by this demon, they ask themselves many questions and often come up with common answers. We get tricked into going down the wrong path, which will lead them to misguided theories and false conclusions, often against their best interests. Unfortunately, by the time most people read this book, they have made many mistakes and walked down a confusing, undesirable path. I know I have. This book is written in a very different style than most. It's a book of the most commonly asked questions from people about the topic of government mind control projects. The questions are answered as briefly as possible so that the reader can grasp the fundamentals of what to expect during experimentation, interrogation, and programming. But first, let's take the time to read and understand the following terms for a mutual language in order to understand how to tame this demon. And I'm just going to go over a few of them that you might, I'm not going to go because I know most people know those. AI is artificial intelligence. Algorithm is a step-by-step procedure. Data mining, the science of using algorithms to parse out information, alerts, and categorizations of extremely large databases. Direct energy weapons, microwave, laser, sound, even building shaking, any type of energy that can be directed at a biological or structural target. Electronic warfare, weapon systems that interfere can take control of electronics such as alarm systems, car locks, electronic garage doors, computers, etc. Electromagnetics, gaslighting, techniques used to produce paranoia in a person, information warfare, the use of electronic warfare, computer network operations, psychological operations and deception to influence, disrupt, corrupt, or usurp the decision-making process of a group or individual. This is a general classification that involves perception of human beings and their belief systems. It can include cyber or cybernetic warfare. Martha Mitchell effect, a psychological misdiagnosis of delusion in which the subject story, being strange, ends up being true. Memetics, the study of ideas and concepts viewed like living organisms, such as genetics, ideas that bred in most minds, mutate and evolve as they spread. NLP, or neuro linguistic programming, techniques are used in advertising, positive hypnosis, but the CIA uses it in their techniques to reprogram others to kill, which includes various drugs and mind control techniques for reprogram a person from one loyalty to another. Perp, short for perpetrator, someone involved in nefarious activities. Psychotronics. This is the old terminology, meaning the effects of electromagnetic fields on the human mind. Psyops, short for psychological operations, passing information to a group or individual to influence their emotions, motives, reasoning, and ultimately their behavior. Such uses include propaganda. The purpose of psychological operations is to fool that group or individual into doing what instigator wants them to do. It's even used against politicians to increase war budgets. PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, cures of traumatic events, leaving mental scars which are difficult to cure. Induced for interrogations, brainwashing, and mind control. Satan, an above top secret mind control weapon that used worldwide for eugenics on so-called dissidents. Stands for silence assassination through adaptive neural networks. Synthetic telepathy, most common terminology for direct brain to computer, inner brain to communication artificially. The technology can transmit emotions, words, and sensory perception bidirectly to the hive mind, usually 2 to 6 people in the hive. TI's target individual, trolls, these are agent provocateurs, mostly on the internet, whether government affiliated or not. V2K, this is another old but common voice to skull. We all know that one, so let's start. Government mind control programs. Many discovered government control programs use trauma-based conditioning. Here's a short list of revealed programs. Project Bluebird, initiated in 1949, was first CIA modification program. Bluebird morphed into Artichoke to create programmed assassins and split personality types. Then the CIA added to the goals of the program its most famous mind control program, MK Ultra, for espionage, counter-espionage, and clandestine manipulation of global politics. Thousands of pages were declassified on this program during the 70s church hearings. These programs were followed by many names under new names, budgets such as MK Delta, MK Search, Chatter, Spell, Binder, MK Naomi, etc. Current programs are classified, but MK Ultra continues in new forms under new names and budgets. Another common program is a trauma-induced form of mind control called Monarch programming. Project Stargate was a cover story of psychic spying. However, it's used very advanced remote sensing and influence technologies on human beings, which has become global. The leaked newer programs follow Disney themes. The awakening. The first thing one notices is that there's something wrong with the world. Society, the news, people are actually acting unusual, and are unaware of a better world that could be created or should exist already. Freedom is an illusion. When the pains and mental distortion occur, the target will suffer from disillusionment, loss of free will, feelings of being watched with feedback of the monitoring 24/7. Depending on the program that the specific target has been placed in, some will experience tinnitus, V2K, and organized stalking. The target will often notice campaigns of defamation and slander run against them. The target will realize that news is propaganda, the rest of society is unaware, not fully awake, and almost hypnotized or too self-centered to think of others' suffering. They see the lies of politicians and government just as another crime industry, another kind of crime industry. What is their game? Every action a TI can do damns them. It is a checkmate before the target even realizes they're at war with an unknown enemy. It's not exactly fair, but neither is war or life in general. There are many experiments and reasons for doing these horrific, long-term crimes against humanity in order to sample points of cultures, language, and countries. But let's look at some of the most brutal programming and silent assassination methods used to create false flag fear in the general public. Here's a simple flow chart of how to create a suicide or programmed assassin. And as you can see, the basic programming used for false flag terrorism. Confuse, the first one, goes down, got an arrow pointing down, terrorize, torture, scare, go down, psychoanalysis of personality, interrogation, memory retrieval, program tactics, dream manipulation, depattern, neurolinguistic programming, behavior modification, goals and outcomes, act irrationally in public, get locked up in a mental hospital, create track record of mental illness. Now it goes down to assign targets to TIs who are programmed as assassins and terrorists. Kill specific targets, kill themselves, dispose of the target, feedback, and it keeps going. As you can see, the feedback goes around and it's just one big circle. So what it's saying here is when it's feeding back. So it's constantly psychoanalyzing your personality and interrogating you, retrieving memories. And you're probably constantly getting hit with dream manipulation, deep pattern, neurolinguistic programming, behavior modification. And they want you to act irrationally in public, get locked up in mental hospital, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. For more details on programs of mind control, read Project Soul Catcher Volume 2, which I'm doing right now, too. I'm on part 12. Assumption of life goals. We society generally agree on certain life goals: excel in jobs, seek happiness, and longevity. The mind control aggressors understand these general metrics of success for which one strives and uses this knowledge in their mission to destroy someone, break down their will to resistance, and ultimately to control or dispose of them. These tactics and techniques are to make the target irrelevant in the participation of worldwide collective consciousness that is fundamental in creating a viable future. These life goals are what TIs is trying to keep or restore in their struggle against secret forces of destruction. Goals of the TI. Once the target realizes they're in the program, they have immediate goals in response to their pain and terrorism. The first is to make people believe them. This is a difficult task to prove people to people what they're experiencing. Next, they want to stop the targeting and get relief and get their lives back. They seek answers. Why me? Who's behind it? How's it done? In the beginning, they seek the simplest answers, but after a few years, more investigation, they realize it's much, much bigger than they first realized, and politics and technology is far more complex and sophisticated than they first thought. I know when I first done this and called and told people what was going on that were close to me, they thought I was nuts. And I'm like, man, so it got me to the point where I didn't even care about living or whatever. I didn't care, and I tried a couple of times. I'm not proud of it and would never do it again. Uh, but that's the point I was at with all this stuff. When you call your dad and say, "Look, these people are following me around. Every time they look at me, they look down at their phone." And I walked way over to the other side of town, and they're still there, circling me like sharks. And my dad's like, "What are you on?" And I wasn't on nothing. The controller's end game. What are they up to? The answer is kind of disappointing. Everyone thinks their lives are the most important, but that isn't true to the war machine. TIs are just a data point amongst tens of thousands. The short answer is a data collection of mind control, practice, improve the victory of all possible outcomes, hypergame, plausible deniability assassinations, false flag terrorism, and to incite wars. There's more than one purpose for the torture and mind control experiments operations. Okay, traps to avoid. The most difficult problem for the average person is to avoid the traps and obvious moves ones make when first indoctrinated in the program. Unfortunately, this war game has 60 years of study on how the target will react, what counter moves and counterintelligence can be done to a target. It is a game of damned if you do, damned if you don't. This book hopes to trade offs of decisions the target needs to make to help the TI understand the potential consequences of those decisions. Somebody asked me to do a video on what to do as a homeless target individual. So I just wanted to do this while it's crossing my mind. First of all, don't never ask nobody for directions. If you're a real target individual, they will point you in the wrong direction and have you walk all the way across town before you realize you've been sent on a wrong mission. If you're bouncing city to city homeless, learn how to learn your surroundings and learn your way around in your head, because they will manipulate your GPS and have you going in circles. I experienced all these things in 2018. So I never go by GPS. Never go, never ask somebody something. I mean, if you're a real TI and ask somebody something, chances are they're going to give you the wrong directions. I know they did me. Okay, that's just a couple of and as I go through this stuff, I think about stuff to tell these homeless people then that are, because I lived 7 years homeless on the streets. Oh yeah, if don't develop patterns. If you go to the same store every morning, go different routes, back there and back. Don't never have the same path that we're going. Okay, here's a quick list and common traps that TI often falls for. What I used to do though is I would put in my mind and I would act like I was walking to Family Dollar, and on the way there I would turn off to a different store, first store, without even thinking about it. I tried everything to get these people off my butt, and it never worked. Or another thing you can do is if you know they're listening on the phone and you're talking to somebody, you could say, "Oh, I'm on my way to Walmart," when really you're on your way to a different store. Have them all waiting at Walmart, really go to a different store. Okay, here's a quick list of common traps that TI often falls for. Avoid the addiction of drama and gossip on internet support groups. True, 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 true. Uh, you know, I had somebody, I'm not going to mention their name, message me last night. Oh, I know what you said about me. Uh, I know what you said about me, bro. Blah, 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 blah. And you know what I told him? And he said, I already know. I've been told what you somebody told me. I said, well, you know what? I'm not worried about who told you what because I didn't say nothing about you, bro. And um, what you're thinking is far out there, bro. I don't have time to be on internet sites calling people names, spreading rumors, and doing all that stuff. And that's why it's hard to catch me on Facebook or anything. I always answer messages and stuff, but it's hard to catch me because I'm done with that stuff, man. Most of these groups and stuff have all kinds of dissension in them, talking behind people's backs. So I just exited myself out of that stuff. I still post, I still talk to certain TIs, but I don't get in no gossip, and I'm not going to get pulled in gossip. It's a waste of time and energy. It's one of the division tactics used against targeted individuals. One of the biggest tactics separating us right now. Avoid the addiction of drama and gossip on internet support groups. Website information's good, but TIs rarely get along or can organize themselves in numbers enough to get mainstream media attention. Now, am I saying don't try to start groups and don't try to uh, come together? No, I always try to come together. Maybe one day it'll work. Okay, do not live with other TIs except under rare conditions. I found this. I've lived with a TI for 3 years. It's been hell sometimes, good sometimes. Overall, it's worked out. However, I have experienced paranoia. I've had TIs move me in, be paranoid, think I'm morphing. One TI said I was disappearing from the bottom floor, appearing on the first floor. And appearing on the second floor, just disappearing and morphing from floor to floor. So, some TIs just they mean well and want to help you out, but when you get to their house, they're really trippy and really can't trust you. They You have to be strong-minded to live with another TI. You have to be able to tell yourself, okay, am I oversensitized? Is this because your mind's going to tell you, oh, they're perping you. Oh, they did this, they're perping you. You have to be strong enough with discernment to see through your mind's lies that it tells you because of sensitization. And that's not all cases. Some cases you do move in with perps, but when two true TIs move in, they usually don't get along because they're paranoid of each other deep down, and it's hard for them to trust because they've been through so much trauma and so ripped off and you know, just mad, just done wrong by people who've been around them. So it's good to deal with that trauma. One thing I had to do was tell myself, hey, when I'm not going to say certain stuff that came to my mind about Holly, but certain when I first moved in, she had the same thoughts about me. I had the same, and so I had to tell myself, hey, fear is false evidence appearing real, and my mind is trying to sell me something to make me run out of this. And you never know if you don't take a chance. Sometimes you have to be strong, fight it, fight your urge to leave, fight your urge to not trust somebody, and you have to just take a chance. Or just be a loner your life and never um some people are so isolated and so scared to reach out that that's what they're comfortable in. And I can relate. But I had to take a chance because I was just down. I was gonna, I'm not even going to go into that right now. See, I tried to keep some of my life, I don't try to put everything out there and give people bait to pick at me or ask me questions or perk me with. Do not live with other TIs except under rare conditions. Distress is caused by everything and induced paranoia and destabilization of emotions always ends in dysfunction and accusations in the group. Sure does, but if you're strong enough to see through it and trust, and you may get burned trusted, but you'll never have a relationship with anybody or friendship if you don't take a chance. Encourage new friendships by not talking about your situation too much, but also avoid isolation. Don't lose your finances by moving or spending too much on technical research for passive or active shielding unless you're an expert. A lot of people go out and get shielding and all this, and what works for one person might not work for the other person. Don't waste your money on a bunch of expensive shielding because it don't work. And a grounded Faraday cage works. If you get the screen from Lowe's or somewhere that's not been sprayed with that stuff and you ground it, it works. But who can stay in a Faraday cage all day? I just, I deal with my attacks with nausea pills, which is Zofran. Uh, I also deal with it with my head caps. I've laid down for hours with plastic Ziploc bags with water over my head. That's not shielding. It just keeps you cool when you're going through it. I've also, man, numbers. I was trying anything at one point. I put a tin foil, like heavy duty foil, bunch of sheets of it in a ball cap back about a couple of years ago. I was getting hit so hard. I was like, I'm gonna try this. So I did a bunch of layers, because they say aluminum foil don't work because it's got holes in it. And I put it in a ball cap on my head and fry it even worse. But there's days, man, I would just lay with ice over my head, just trying everything. Well, multitasking does help sometimes, especially with remote neuromonitoring. But don't go spend money on buying all this shielding, and then or don't go spend money moving around the country trying to get rid of this, because everywhere you move, it follows. Typical Faraday cages does not work like those built with chicken wire. Other types have had some success with TIs, some TIs. Another thing they do is nano tricks. So new TIs know this. So if you buy shielding, what they might do is they might let it work for a week, which means they might slack off hitting you. Then they get you to go tell your TI buddies this works. So then your TI buddies have got excited, went and bought this shielding, and then when it don't work and they get hit even harder, they turn against you and think you're a perp because you told them the wrong information. When really you didn't tell them wrong information, they just stopped hitting you when you were wearing it. Okay, some stress relievers are very important, such as hypnosis, sleeping with music. I do that, handpan music, positive affirmations. That's a good thing. Surround yourself while emotionally sensitive and put with pop with while emotionally sensitive with positive people. Some TIs can be a positive influence, but others will turn on you. Don't assume because you have a common goal that people can act respectfully. TIs with more emotional development will be a better support group. Choose wisely, and that's true. Also, uh, if you got a if you get a horse thief sober in AA, you still got a horse thief. If you get a if so if there's a TI who lives lives a life of crime and he's targeted, just because he's targeted don't mean he ain't still living that life of crime. So you see what I'm saying here? So you got to be careful how you gauge people and how you trust people, because just because they're TIs don't mean that that they don't do bad stuff. So once again, if you get a horse thief sober, he's still a horse thief. Okay, be honest with shrinks. See, I don't know about this one. See, I'm not going to recommend yes or no on this. I would say, why use only private shrinks and not public ones? That's true. Even though the government under Un-American Patriot Act can grab your records, at least some government agencies can't. Later in this book, you will understand your choices. Read on. See, I don't know what to do in that situation. I'm not an expert on this. Uh, if you have a private shrink, maybe be honest. But I don't know. That's just a rough one right there. I think he was bold by putting that in this book. Be honest with shrinks. Huh. And I wish could ask him why he put that in this book. Huh. Because I've been told not to be honest with shrinks, and I've been told to be honest with shrinks. Uh, if you have a private one, I would say sometimes you can be. It depends on the circumstance. All I'm gonna say. And I'm not an expert on this. All I can tell you is from my experience. Do not believe the lies of the handlers of who they are and what they would do in the negotiation phase to release you from the program. True, V2K might tell you, well, if you do this, you'll be releasing the program, or go do this to this person, we'll release you, or send us this money to this address. People Well, also on the internet now, scams. They'll come through. I was a target individual, and dude helped me get off the list, and blah 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 blah. Then I know somebody who got scammed out of $400 doing that. So don't believe nobody who says they can get you off a list, stop your targeting, or anything, or stop your V2K because it's not true. Use sanity checks, 24-hour loop security cameras, and audio meters in cars and home. Video of compasses of magnetic field readings and voltmeter readings on body. Video oscilloscope readings on body and spectrum analyzers. Never commit an act of violence against yourself or others unless you're in revolution or at war or somebody's threatening you physically, put their hands on you or something. Yeah, don't never do that. Some targets have tried to do that to bring awareness to this program, and it didn't work. But they really thought Myron May was one. And matter of fact, sometime this week I'm going to upload. I put all three of his videos together, and I'm going to upload it to one video in remembrance of him. Yeah, so don't never commit an act of violence against yourself or others. It just makes the community look bad, and it makes the smear campaigns they started about you seem true to whoever they told them to. There's no way as of yet to show that your private thoughts are communicated by other people unless you can recruit some of the world's best scientists and have millions of dollars to spend. While this is very disturbing, proof cannot be gathered in this way for the typical TI. It is a personal experience that only those in the program will experience and know to be true. TIs think that their experience are personal and find the reason why they are targeted and who they are. You, the TI, needs to understand this is part of the game they play with you. Okay, frequently asked questions. The following questions are typically asked from TIs. The answers to many of these questions are still unclear, but for quick understanding of these options that TI has and to understand the consequences of their decisions, this format summary answers provide a concise foundation for new people brought into the program. What is a TI? A TI is abbreviation for target individual. A TI will experience defamation of character in their community, harassment, electronic torture, direct energy attacks, break-ins, organized stalking, gaslighting, or a combination of the previous. There are many reasons you're targeted, especially a government target particular person. If you've ever worked for the government with security clearance, you will periodically get spied upon and tested to see if you will speak about secrets that you know or if you're still in line with country values. You'll be set up, discredited, or killed if the answer is not what they want. This is the epicenter for the thrust of the world domination absolute control. Many other people are just mind control test victims who provide practice for the armature spies and data points for these newer technologies to control society, economics, and world politics. You may be asking yourself, why me? Did I do something wrong? This is usually the first question asked by a target for these high-tech projects. There are many answers. Okay, I got about 5 more minutes and I'm going to stop. There are many answers. In the 1960s, the gifted children who are intelligent and creative were brought into the programs. These qualities are probably still used, but in any covert programs, the patterns must be hidden from the general public and independent researchers. Counterintelligence must be considered to hide the development used from the U.S. enemies and progress made in mind control for enhancement or deprecation of targets. There seems to be certain sectors and classifications that are outliers in the data that we have collected on population of TIs. People have drug abuse history, have lawsuits against corporations, live alone in an apartment complex, whistleblowers, enemy of the state like peace protesters, and so-called dissidents become statistical outliers in the study. The government agencies try to make it as diverse as possible throughout the social strata for the data collection. New TIs get the shame game and think back to who might have had the power to put them on the torture and slow kill list. It is a distraction of the truth. Do serial killers have a pattern? The U.S. government's like a serial killer in terms of collecting data on every walk of life to understand the kill capabilities and disablement of individuals when they use these programs in war and peacetime. The shame game is used to attract secrets and blackmail on the target. The world's always at war. The databases are huge, like the Human Genome Project or the Human Mind Project. But this is important for the next generation of cognitive warfare. Some researchers say the intelligence agencies involved in mind control are only looking for unusual mind for their cognitive databases and how to re-educate the target for conformity of thought and as a way to hide their experimentation on the fringe elements of society, those that are awake. Practical advice. One of the primary tactics of these mind control programs is to lead the TI down a false path of blame of themselves, a particular group of persons, leading them to believe that group of persons behind their misery and harassment. Don't jump to conclusions right away. Remember, voices can be transformed and mimicked, and thereby false correlations created. I've racked my brain. I was targeted before I sued the company, but when I sued the company, my targeting ramped up 100%. As soon as about one day after I signed the papers in the lawyer's office. How long will I be in this program? And I think we'll stop right there after this, and we'll start. I'm going to do part 1, part 2, and I'm going to put it in the playlist. How long will I be in this program? Usually programs are for life, but the torture phase of the program generally lasts a few years. It is different for every TI. Some, a very few, get released from the program other than through death, but their lives are in shambles, of course. There's no known way to buy your way out of the program once in it. For those that escape the program, it is because they figured out all the psychological mechanisms of mind control and their handlers have gave up on them. Knowledge of thyself and the human condition is power. Practical advice for survival of these methods of programs is to stay grounded, be logical, analytical, and educate yourself and use a scientific method. I don't personally know anybody who's made it through the TI program who's not targeted right now, but he's saying there is people who can, for those who escape the programs because they figured out all the psychological mechanisms of mind controls and their handlers gave up on them. Now, like I said, I don't know anybody who's got out of this. Okay, I'm going to say one more thing. How many people have had these experiences? This is a difficult question. People have come forward, can only be tracked by internet groups. Those that are too disabled due to the experimentation are not counted. The estimates are based on several sample points. It is at a minimum of 10,000 people, and at the maximum, every human is affected in small and large ways. The count is based not on small influences over population, but those that are direct torture victims of the mind control technologies. These experiments are control of the minds of masses using direct electromagnetic stimulation over the population started as early as 65. More and more are indoctrinated depending on war and black budgets. Many TIs become too scrambled to understand what's happening to them and hence can't be counted. And I'm going to read this last part and then I'm going to stop for today. Okay, and it is, what is their agenda? For the TI, there are many purposes for handlers and scientific data of behavioral responses. The ultimate goal has been the same since the dawn of human tribes: conquest, control, the population, and ultimate world domination. They are using a swath of cultures and language to perfect the ultimate mind control weapon technology on the population. The handlers are practicing the various techniques to control their subjects, and the scientists use the data to evaluate the effectiveness of those technologies and techniques. There are, of course, multiple purposes: creating programmed assassins in order to induce fear into the rest of the masses so that they will give up gun rights and allow the government to monitor all communication for fear of terrorists. This is a new technology, but a very old false flag strategy to manipulate the average people. Remember, 95% of government employees are morally good and have no idea how they are just cogs and pawns in this complex games. I don't know if being purposely ignorant gets them into heaven, but don't assume they're consciously aware of the bigger picture any more than an SS soldier killing Jews and just following orders. TIs make the mistake that the federal police would know about these technologies and strategies. Please don't fall for level 1 and contact them. This only creates the track record that many others have fallen for, discrediting the TI, and then allows further programming in case they are successful Manchurian candidates for the 4 major news network channels. It is far more unlikely that they will release you from the program after such events of discrediting you. There have been several FBI and police officers who have been put into the program. Even with their clout, they could not get help. Interesting. So anyway, I got to cut it today. I'm going to start next week with seeking help or assistance questions. Please give me feedback and on any ideas you think or any things you would like to do a video on, me to do a video on. I still may do a video on how to survive as a homeless TI. Somebody had asked me to do that. I shared a couple of tips just a minute ago, but I'm thinking about really going through with that. I just got to put it together. So anyway, God bless all TIs. Um, like I said, if anybody wants to do an interview and get their story out there, hollyspunk@gmail.com. God bless.